We need like one of those things. Take 4?
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Steve for CollectorMania. We're here doing a deck tech for one of the new commanders from Commander 17 that's coming out later, August 25th this year. So super hyped about that, of course. The whole set looks absolutely amazing. The 56 or whatever cards, they're up to like 46 at this point. So we still don't know about 10 cards. So keep in mind, this list is built on the knowledge that we have right now. So there could be some crazy cat that gets released tomorrow that, you know, may change this a little bit. But for the most part, I just wanted to get this up here for you guys to see as soon as I could, just so you can kind of start building and brewing and all that stuff. So anyway, today we're going to focus on Nazahn Revered Bladesmith, or Stoneforge Catsmith, as I like to call it. Really crazy card. I'll read it for you here real quick. It's 6 costs, so 4 colorless, 1 green, 1 blue. Legendary creature cat Artificer, of course, and then it's a 5/4. When Nazahn Revered Bladesmith enters the battlefield, search your library for an equipment card and reveal it. If you reveal a card named Hammer of Nazahn this way, put it on the battlefield. So that's absolutely insane. Then it has otherwise, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. So of course there. And then we've got another ability. Whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you may tap target creature defending player controls. So, bunch of relevant abilities. Really, really cool cat. I'm really happy that they went with the kind of it is equipment theme. They could have definitely gone tokens with this, you know, thinking about Brimaz and Kimba and stuff like that. So I'm really happy they went this direction. I think, you know, green-white equipments is actually pretty cool, you know. So anyway, with that, we will kind of break into the deck here. As you'll see, I have to use my phone a little bit here just because a lot of these cards, none of these cards are in my hands essentially. So any of the new cards, I'll be over here. Sorry if that bugs you, but you know, so on and so forth. First up, we've got our Planeswalkers. We've got a Johnny Collar the or anything really. Just giving like your commander or one of your beefed up guys double strike just to finish somebody off can be really important. So there's that, and his other abilities aren't bad either. Then we've got a Johnny Unyielding. Of course, we had to stick as many Johnnies as we could in here. So he's a 6-cost Planeswalker with 4 loyalty. His +2 is reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all non-land permanent cards revealed this way into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So keeping in mind the relevance of equipments, this card is actually pretty bonkers in this deck because you can reveal 3 equipments and then just play them all. So there's that. -2, of course, is a Swords to Plowshares, which is really, really good, especially on a Planeswalker like this. -9, put 5 +1/+1 counters to each creature you control and 5 loyalty counters on each other Planeswalker control. Ultimate's not going to come up very much in this deck. We are basically just running these 2 Johnnies as far as Planeswalkers go. And as far as like going wide, we may have a few creatures at some point, but mainly we're trying to focus. We're trying to Voltron essentially, so not that relevant. The first 2 abilities are really what we're after with this guy. So on from that, we're into our first creatures here. We've got, of course, an Adorned Pouncer. This is a brand new cat from, I think it was Hour of Devastation. It's got double strike, it's a 1/1 cost 2, it's got the Eternalize ability. This could come in handy because once again it turns it into a black zombie cat, so it gets around, like, for example, if somebody has like protection from white and green, that can be pretty important. Plus it becomes a 4/4 double striker at that point. So once again with our equipments, that becomes really, really good. And going back to Nizam, I mean, those abilities to tap blockers, all that stuff, the deck just kind of works really well together. So there's that. And of course we've got a tried and tested faithful Qasali Pride Mage here. One of the best cats that's ever been printed so far, you know, and it essentially does everything you want it to. It's got the Exalted for the Voltron. It's got the pay 1 sacrifice to destroy target artifact or enchantment. So, I mean, they're thinking about like our commander challenge that's coming up. Like, one of the commanders is an artifact dragon. So, I mean, that could just kill Ramos super easy. So, stuff like that, Qasali Pride Mage. Really, really good card, even outside of cats. Then we've got a Leonin Shikari. Really, really cool cat soldier. 2/2 for 2. It basically lets you play equipment abilities at any time. So you could equip something at instant speed, which is actually really important. You know, when you're thinking about blocks and stuff like that. Say you swing with something and then you want to re-equip your Sword of Feast and Famine to block a black creature or a green creature. You could just do that instant speed at this point, so really cool card. On from that, we've got Brimaz, of course, one of the Cat Kings, essentially. Really great for just making an army. I mean, as stated, that's not really our goal here, but it definitely can work. The fact that he does it on attack and block is super important. Once again, being Voltron, you can just equip this guy up, swing, get a cat token, get whatever effect that you're using with your equipment. He just basically does it all. If he had another color on him, if he was green-white, he'd probably be the commander of most cat decks at this point, but that's Brimaz. Then we've got a Fleetfoot Panther. This is more of a techie card. Essentially, the idea is you play this guy and you get your Nazahn or whatever ETB you want back to your hand. I kind of found a lot of bounce synergy with cats. It's kind of funny. I never even thought about it that way, but there's like the Loaming Lion, stuff like that. There's the Sabretooth that we'll get into in a second. So having that ability to bounce your commander back, go get another equipment, you know, when you cast him for 6, whatever. Really cool ability. And then we've got a Pride Sovereign. This is another new card from Arrow Devastation. I'm really happy that they decided to throw some cats in at the last second, essentially. 3 costs. Pride Sovereign gets +1/+1 for each other cat you control. So kind of, once again, going a little bit wide. It pays 1 white and then tap and you can exert it. Create 2 1/1 white creature cat tokens with lifelink. So getting back to our Fleetfoot Panther, if you think about this, you can exert this guy, then bounce it with the Fleetfoot Panther, put it into play untapped, and then you've got a giant blocker. So that's a way you can kind of play around with that bounce ability. Okay, and after that we've got Prowling Surferpard. I don't really anticipate a whole lot of counters in the Commander Challenge, but there might be a few. Mainly this card's in here for like when I go play this deck outside of the Commander Challenge. It's really good. Basically it says creatures can't be countered. Itself can't be countered. It's a 4/3, so 4/3 for 3 is actually really good as well. It's pretty good power and toughness for that cost. Plus, it's a cat snake. Like, when did they think about, I mean, how did that even come up, you know? Okay, and then we're getting into another one of our new cards here. It is a Stalking Leonin. And I'll kind of pull up the image here real quick, that way I don't misread anything. Okay, so this card's kind of bizarre. I remember reading it the first time. It feels like it should be in Conspiracy and not Commander, which is kind of funny. So it's a 3-cost Cat Archer, which is a really cool creature type, actually. 3/3. When Stalking Leonin enters the battlefield, secretly choose an opponent, which I'm guessing you just write a note and put it under the card or something like that. I'm sure there's some official rules somewhere. Then it has reveal the player you choose, exile target creature that's attacking you if it's controlled by the chosen player. Activate this ability only once. So, wacky ability, going back to, once again, the Fleetfoot Panther. Things that bounce your creatures back can be super important here. You want to play this card when there's like someone, once again, is threatening you with dragons or vampires or something like that. It's almost like a Maze of Ith, and it's going to deter somebody from attacking you with their best creatures because you can just remove them, you know, just by activating an ability, and that's hard to counter most of the time unless you have like stifles and stuff like that. You know, there's, like I said, the Sabretooth is another way to balance this. There's a few different things that we can do here. Wacky ability for a commander card, though. Like I said, this feels like it should be a Conspiracy card. But yeah, love the artwork. Once again, it makes me feel like it's from like Skyrim, you know, when you're playing like one of your Khajiits and you're just like arching people, you know, shooting people down with your arrows. So yeah, that's that card. Then we've got the new Murari. This is the Weatherlight Duelist. Is it Miri or Murari? Miri. It's Miri. That's right. I always say that wrong. So it is a 3-cost, 1 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. First strike. Got to change my screen here. When Miri Weatherlight Duelist attacks, each opponent can't block with more than 1 creature this combat. So you think about that with your commander, like now they can't block, essentially. So there's that. And then, well, I guess they could. Never mind, I'm reading that wrong. Scratch that. With cat claws, yeah. So anyway, second part is as long as Miri Weatherlight Duelist is tapped, no more than 1 creature can attack you each combat. So that's pretty important as far as like what our strategy is with Voltron. Like I said, most of the time you're going to have 1 big beefed out creature swinging and attacking. you're not really going to have that many creatures back to block. So having an ability like that where you can kind of minimize your threats coming back at you for the swing back is really important. I also see this card as a commander, of course, as itself. I think it's really, really good in 1v1. That's where I think this card will shine. It's got a super relevant ability for that, arena essentially, and then it also has, decent power and toughness. First strike is definitely something that I really like in 1v1, and yeah, I'll be excited to brew that up. You guys will probably see a list for it coming up in the next couple of weeks when we have a little bit more time. So there's that. Then we've got another new card in Alms Collector. I love that this thing has flash. I gotta pull it up here real quick though. So 4-cost cat cleric, 3/4, flash. If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card. Nothing says like this is the best consecrated Sphinx hoser I've ever seen than really this card. Like, think about it. You're denying your opponent an extra card and then you're gaining a card, so it's card advantage while giving them card disadvantage when you think about things like consecrated Sphinx. But think about a Blue Sun Zenith. Like, that is just like a kick in the pants right there. Yeah, they go to Blue Sun Zenith for 10, then you play this. They draw 1 card, you draw 1 card, and you say thank you, I guess. Okay, and then we've got another new card. Oop. And as a side note, while I'm waiting for this to load, I'm really happy that they kind of focused on the converted mana cost of 4 cats that seemed a little lacking, which is kind of nice. So that kind of like filled out the curve essentially, because there was definitely a problem in the beginning, trying to build this deck without the full spoiler list. So anyway, side note aside, we've got Balon the Wandering Knight. So this is a 2 colors, 2 white legendary creature cat knight. So another choice for commander if you want to, which I think this guy would make a great Voltron commander as well. He is a 3/3 with first strike, and its flavor, our text is Balon Wandering Knight has double strike as long as it has 2 or more equipment cards are attached to it. So obviously they're playing equipment, so that's probably going to happen each time. Then it has pay 1 colors and a white. Attach all equipments you control to Balon. So if you think about that, like me and Eric were actually just talking about this before we even started filming this, that axe, the one that duplicates each time you hit somebody with it, you can essentially equip that, swing with him, get another axe, well, depending on if you have 2 equipments on him already, this only works that way. Get another axe, before the double strike damage happens, the second strike essentially, you use his ability to equip the other axe, and then all of a sudden you're getting 2 more axes. Like, it just stacks on stacks on stacks on stacks. There's a ton of things you can do with this guy, like instant speed, equip a Scythe Claw. Like, that's devastating to your opponent, So anyway, really cool card. Like I said, he would make a great Voltron commander on his own, and we'll probably brew that up as well. As you can tell, we're having a lot of fun with these new cards. Okay, so now we're moving on to a older card, but really a golden one. That's Leonin Abunas. Weird word. Anyway, 3 colorless, 1 white. It's a cat cleric, 2/5, so great for blocking. Artifacts you control can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. So this is a way to give your swords hexproof, essentially, or any of your equipments. And that's really relevant, I would say, because most of your opponents are going to be like, yeah, I'll just, naturalize that and get it out of here. Not a threat anymore. This guy basically just says no. Okay, and then we've got our bounce synergy again. We've got a Timir's Sabretooth. So this guy is a cat, 4/3, costs 2 colors, 2 green. Activated ability, 1 colorless, 1 green. You may return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, Timir's Sabretooth gains indestructible until end of turn. So not only is he like protecting himself by getting him indestructible, say for example a board wipe happens and you need to save your commander, you just leave this guy out there, bounce your commander back, then all of a sudden you can reuse your commander on the next turn, or even if you have enough mana that turn. So there's that. It's just a really cool card. I've been using it in Animar for quite a while because of course there's a lot of synergy there, but I think it actually has a really good place here, just once again getting back to the ETBs that are related to cats. Okay, and then we've got another new commander. Gotta find him here. There we go. And that's Arabo. a robo or something. Roar of the World. This is a 3 colorless, 1 green, 1 white cat avatar, 5/5. Legendary creature, of course. This, I believe, is the box featured commander. I guess you'd put it that way. It's got Eminence, which I think all the featured ones have that as well. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if I can't say it. Anyway, Roar of the World is in the command zone or on the battlefield. Another target cat you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn. So really cool. A little bit of buff there. And then its other abilities, whenever another cat you control attacks, you may pay 1 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. If you do, it gains trample and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. So going back to our theme, Voltron, that's an absolutely bonkers ability to have on a cat. You think about it, you have your commander, for example, and you equip him with a Sword of Feast and Famine. Then all of a sudden he's getting, let's see, he's a 4/5, then he's that'd be a 6/7, then yeah, he's swinging for 12. Oh god, I can't even do the math right now. It's insane. It turns him into a monster. You're probably killing an opponent that turn. So yeah, really good, of course, as a commander himself, but also great in the deck. And then we've got a Regal Caracol. A little bit of life gain plus a little bit more cat token synergy. I like that it buffs the rest of your cats and gives them lifelink. So once again, with your equipment cats, your Voltron swinging, you're just gaining a bunch of life and dealing everybody a bunch of damage. Then we've got another new card, Quasoli Slingers. Really important that this card has reach. I really like that. There's not a whole lot of way to block flyers. I actually included a lot of the Mirrodin flying cats, the ones that have like first strike and like vigilance or something like that, just for that reason. Plus, having those guys as a little bit of evasion isn't bad either. So I'm just kind of trying to find the card here. It's the hard part about trying to use technology. Okay, so Quasoli Slingers. It's a 4 colorless, 1 green cat warrior with reach, 3/5. When Quasoli Slingers enters or another cat enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. So not only is it a way to block flyers, but it's also a really interesting way to have your ETB effects destroy artifacts and enchantments. It's like having a what is that? Can't think of the enchantment. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, there's an enchantment that triggers on creatures entering the battlefield that destroys artifacts and enchantments. This is essentially that on a body.
Is it Aura Shards?
Yep, Aura Shards. There we go. Thanks, Eric. Okay, and then on from that we've got Jedit. Oh, I can't even read the rest of this. Anyway, it's a legendary cat warrior lord, 5/5 for 6, 3 colorless, 3 green, forest walk. So pretty important ability there. Whenever it attacks, kind of like Brimaz, you get a 2/2 cat warrior token with forest walk into play. So once again, going back to the Voltron theme, this guy actually fits perfectly. Makes you little tokens as well, some blockers. Our last creature that we wanted to feature was Raksha Golden Cub. So he's got Vigilance, Pseudo Vigilance. He's a 3/4 for 7, which doesn't seem like a very good, payoff. But his ability is, as long as he is equipped, cats you control get +2/+2 and have double strike. So that's pretty big. I mean, it's like having a crazy enchantment out there that just gives everything double strike and +2/+2. So really, just get this guy in equipment and one of those copied axes that you have, stick it on him, then all of a sudden your army is just insane, or your one swinger is just insane. So there's that. Okay, so moving on from creatures, we're getting into the meat of the deck here, which is actually our equipments. I've featured a few here. I'm actually probably going to beef this list up a little bit as the weeks go on. So the list that I play with during the Commander Challenge might be slightly different, just because I might get my hands on some other equipments, but for now, this is what I'm running with. First up, we've got a Basilisk Collar. Death Touch Lifelink, really important. There's a lot of first strikers in here, so giving like Murari this is awesome, or Miri. Having it cost 1 and then equip for 2 is actually really important as well, so really good equipment for this deck. Really like the idea of it. Then we've got a new card, and that's the Bloodforge War Axe. This is the card that we were talking about with the other commander guy. Essentially, you deal combat damage to somebody with this, it makes a copy of it, now all of a sudden you have another equipment. Having a ton of equipments is really important in this deck. I mean, if you think about it, you can just stack them all in one creature and then give that creature like +10, plus whatever. Yeah, it's pretty insane. So, interesting card that they've made here. Then we've got a Lightning Greaves. Of course, we've got to give that instant equip Shroud, essentially. And then we've got a Heirloom Blade. This card is kind of like a Evolutionary Leap in a lot of ways. One of your creatures dies, and then you basically flip cards until you reveal a creature that shares that card's type. Plus, I believe it gives +3/+1, so I mean that's really good too. Really interesting card once again, like great for tribal synergy. I mean, you could throw this in pretty much anything that likes to attack. Like I could see this in vampires. I could see this, yeah, basically any of those. Really cool card though. Then we've got our swords, the famed swords. I'm so excited to be able to play with these again. It's been so long. Usually I play with these in exclusively 1v1, but when something like this comes around, they really shift to multiplayer. So first we've got a Sword of Feast and Famine, probably the best one for EDH in my opinion. Being able to untap all your lands, yeah, it's just devastating. The other part, you know, having your opponent discard a card comes up sometimes, and it is important, but yeah, the greed inside of this sword is absolutely ridiculous. +2/+2 and protection from 2 pretty relevant colors, pretty important. And then we've got a Sword of Fire and Ice. This one, of course, is just a house. I'm really going to look forward to if I get this in the game with Greg and he's playing his wizards, because that essentially shuts off like 2/3 of his deck. So really cool card. I love it. Absolutely. Probably my favorite sword, to be honest. It just does everything I want it to. Does damage, draws you a card. Okay, and then we've got the Hammer of Nizam. It's a 4-cost artifact equipment, of course. Legendary, so you can't have copies of this, which is only fair. Basically, let's see here. Sorry, my phone's freaking out. When Hammer of Nazahn or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. Equipped creatures get +2/+0 and have indestructible. So, not only is this equipment a benefit to itself, which is really, really good, but it's a benefit to pretty much any equipment that you have on the battlefield. So once again, talking about like your swords or anything like that, basically it enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. So it's just an auto-equip option, especially when you have things like Sigarda's Aid and stuff. Well, I guess that's an auto-equip option as well. But, you know, things like your swords, basically anything like, I know a lot of people have brought up like the really expensive ones, like the Scythe Claw and the Batterskull. You can just throw it on a creature instead of having to pay that huge, you know, equip cost along with the casting cost. So, really cool card. Really looking forward to seeing it in a lot of Ultron decks. I really want to play this in 1v1 as well. Okay, next we've got our Batterskull, of course. You can't really play this without this card, in my opinion. And +4/+4 Vigilance and Lifelink. Can't really beat that. Plus, you know, if you just cast it on its own, it's a germ creature at that point, so it can't actually just attack by itself. So if you get board wiped and you have this card in hand, plus there's also a way to return it to your hand, so you can cast it, then have it. So I mean, so versatile. There's a reason this card is used in basically almost every format. So really relevant, really good. Now we've got a Commander exclusive version of that, I would guess, you know, with the living weapon thing, and that's Scythe Claw. This is a way to knock your opponent's life total in half, like just with one swing. So yeah, super relevant. Once again, if you have one of your creatures, as you saw, there's a million ways to give double strike in this deck. So you hit them first, half their life total. Hit them the second time, half their life total. That can be pretty devastating. That could get you to 5 really, really quick. So, Scythe Claw. Okay, and then a little bit of equipment buffs in our one featured enchantment here, and that's Sigarda's Aid. This is a newer card. It's absolutely insane, but it's very specific. So it's 1 white. You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature control. What more can you really ask for at that point? I mean, you just play this turn 1, and then the rest of the game is pretty much yours. Okay, so on to our instance here. We've got a Heroic Intervention. Being Voltron, we really need to keep our creatures alive, so having a few of these type of effects, and this is one of the main ones that I featured. 2 costs, 1 colorless, 1 green, instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof, really important, and indestructible until end of turn, also really important. So not only are you preventing whatever's trying to get it the first time, you're preventing it for the rest of the turn. A lot of people will do that whole like Path to Exile, follow it up with like a, you know, Beast Within or something like that. You know, they'll bait you into the first one. This card just says you can't do anything about it for the rest of the turn. So, yeah, really, really cool. And then we've got a way to kind of save our entire board if we need to. Well, that is a way as well. But anyway, Area Interlude. Great flicker effects. As we talked about with the deck, there are a lot of cats that come into play and do crazy things like the stalking cat and all that stuff. So really cool card, really good way just to save yourself from basically anything. I mean, this stops everything, Cyclonic Rift even. You know, your creatures return at the end step, so that's really important. Yeah, Area Interlude. Now we've got another new bonkers card, and that's Fairies Protection. I honestly can't believe this is even a card. I mean, it's bizarre. Like, it's such a defensive hose. Like, it just shuts down an opponent completely for that one, you know, final attack. I mean, think about it. Somebody goes to play a Craterhoof, and they're planning on finishing off the entire board, and you have this in hand. What are they going to do about that? Unless they have a counterspell or something like that. So essentially what you do is you gain protection from everything. Your life total can't change, and you phase all your creature. Or is it permanents?
All permanents.
All permanents out of play. So even if they have a Cyclonic Rift or something to follow it up with, yeah, this card is bonkers. I can't even believe it. So I'm excited to test that one out. Okay, and then we've got a Sylvan Reclamation, a really good way to get rid of artifacts and enchantments, plus it's got the basic land cycling, which is what I want to talk about on here. I mean, most of the time you can just throw it away early game, and then, you know, if you needed it later, of course, you know, you kind of kick yourself in the butt, but there's been a few times where the land is just really important. So yeah, really cool card. Love that it has essentially two options on it. Okay, so on from an instance to our sorceries, we've got, I believe, one board wipe in the deck, and that's Fumigate. As you'll see, there is a Felidar Sovereign in the deck list, so gaining life sometimes can be super important just to win the game, so having a board wipe that gains you life is great. Plus, I'm playing against vampires, dragons, and wizards, so having a board wipe is pretty important, especially when I have things like Heroic Intervention or Area Interlude, where I can just save all my stuff and destroy all their stuff, so there's that. Now we've got our second to last new card, and that's Transverse the Outlands. So this is a awesome, crazy ramp spell for anything that's generating a lot of creatures. This may not be the right deck for it, but I wanted to throw it in here anyway. Or is it a lot of creatures or just one big creature? I think I'm thinking about it wrong. Can you read it?
Yeah, search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Put those cards on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle.
So I was thinking about this wrong. So this card is great for this deck. Essentially, you get your 10/10 Nizam out, and then you play this card, and you get basically every basic card basic land card that's left in your deck into play. So really cool. I love this card. I thought it did the opposite. Now that we got to reread it, it's absolutely broken. Okay, and then we've got a Shamanic Revelation. Going back to the life gain matters with like the Felidar Sovereign and things like that. You know, this card is great. It draws you a card for each creature you control, which for you probably won't be that much, but I mean, even if you're drawing 4 cards off of this, think about it. That's pretty good trade there. Plus, you know, you gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Most likely, the creatures that you do have are going to have pretty good power and toughness, so this will gain you some life and draw you some cards. So, really cool card. Okay, and then moving on to our last feature card, that is Path of Ancestry. So this card enters the battlefield tapped, but it essentially fixes for any color that your commander, you know, has in its casting cost, so green and white, and it casts spells of that type. So I believe that's how it is worded. Can you read that one as well, Eric?
Yeah. Comes untapped, as you mentioned. Add 1 mana to your mana pool in your commander's color identity. When mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type, scry. Yep.
So, really, just an interesting card. I like that they kind of have like a tribal command tower almost. I wish it didn't enter the battlefield tapped. I feel like they already put enough of a drawback on it for it to be just tribal command tower. But, you know, obviously they felt like it needed to be powered down a little bit. So, there's that. So anyway, that is our first deck tech for the Commander 17. I hope you guys are looking forward to the gameplay that will be happening in the next couple of weeks, you know, after the set releases, of course. And we will have many more deck techs and many more brews with these guys. I'm super excited about this next month. I think it's going to be a lot of good, relevant information for all of you. But with that, I will see you next time, and we'll see you later. Thanks, guys.